Spark Books here. Today, I'm going to explain the book, Stories for Work, by Gabrielle Dolan. Take care, enjoy the book, and have a nice day. In Stories for Work, 2017, Gabrielle Dolan explains the effectiveness of a powerful story, and how business professionals can harness this tool to communicate ideas, motivate employees, persuade clients and achieve goals. Dolan walks you through practical advice on coming up with your own stories, and how to apply them to a range of business scenarios. Key idea number 1, storytelling is ancient, but businesses are only now realizing its power. You've probably endured a boring PowerPoint presentation at work. Your brain becomes overloaded with numbers and data as they scroll across the slides. This is an embarrassingly prevalent corporate problem. Storytelling helps. Storytelling is an ancient solution to a modern challenge. Homer wrote the Odyssey thousands of years ago. The Greeks employed the epic spoken word poem to educate cultural ideals and preserve their identity. Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime storytelling is another example. Indigenous elders used storytelling to teach children about the Dreamtime, when spirits created the land, people, plants, and animals. Despite its fascinating past, is storytelling important to work? Well, whether for an individual or an organization, storytelling is still the most effective and real way to communicate. Use its methods in business. Australia Post. Traditional mail transactions are rapidly declining as online commerce grows. In 2015, Australia Post restructured and adopted new values. The corporation devised the Grapevine, a 2-day storytelling event, to instill these ideals in its large workforce. Attendees were requested to share a personal experience about a new organizational value. After the Grapevine, the survey question "I can confidently communicate our Australia Post Group shared values" went from 50% to 97% agree. Key idea number 2, science proves great stories evoke emotions. A well-told story seems magical at a child's bedside, a campfire, or a conference. No magic, just science. Stories evoke emotions in our brains, making them powerful communicators. Humans have a supercharged capacity to feel, thus these feelings are serious. How do great stories evoke these emotions? The author and science journalist Daniel Goleman believed that the neocortex, which controls higher cognitive skills, causes our strong emotions. The neocortex and brain's emotional centers are linked by many neural pathways. Storytelling intensifies this relationship. We create a vivid mental image by combining reasoning, emotions, and sensory impressions. This tight association and how our brains digest stories makes stories powerful. Storytelling releases oxytocin, the trust hormone, like hugging or shaking hands, according to neuroeconomist Paul Zak. Oxytocin is the brain's green light of safety. Stories are strong for another scientific reason that builds on the first. Storytelling persuades. Emotion, not intellect, governs our decisions. Consider hearing a salesperson. Do you buy from her? Belief, respect? Salespeople frequently use sensible reasons like a product's benefits and downsides. In truth, we employ logic to support our emotional decisions. Thus, emotional instruments outperform logical lists. In a study of 1,400 marketing initiatives, logic-only ads were only 16% effective. Emotional ones were 31% more successful. Stories transcend rationality to evoke psychological emotion. Stories is rather broad. How can we deconstruct a story? What types of stories exist? Answers follow. Key idea number 3, business stories start with tragedies and achievements. Remember Titanic? Remember the feeling? Consider The Wizard of Oz. Each should conclude with 2 distinct emotions. Tragedies and triumphs are your tales. Bupa's new values, passion and selflessness, were demonstrated in the story. Tragedies, like Titanic, involve disasters. Disasters range from major calamities to regrettable mistakes. Business uses tragedies, too. Australia Post Regional HR Manager Scott Mansell used a terrible tragedy to highlight health and safety. One Christmas, Scott got his wife a bike. She reached a corner on her first ride and didn't know what to do. Scott shouted, "Turn, turn," but after she crashed and injured herself, he realized he was wrong. How does this connect to work? Scott related this story to a workplace problem. After all, they know the company, premises, and equipment. However, assuming your coworkers can take care of themselves makes them the most vulnerable. Scott's experience showed why safety is everyone's responsibility and why we shouldn't assume people's safety. Triumph stories celebrate success, unlike tragedy. Your story should also focus on helping others or the community succeed. Bupa provides healthcare. After many acquisitions, its workforce almost doubled, giving it the perfect opportunity to build new business values. How should they apply them? Bupa used storytelling. John Rizzo, the head of strategy, recounted his mother's success story with disabled children. John recounted her 5-year fight to fund a revolutionary sensory room for the youngsters. John remembers dinner conversations changing from rants to successes. Boopa's new values, passion and selflessness, were demonstrated in the story. Key idea number 4, storytellers need tension and transition. You're at the family party of all stories. Tension and transition type stories would be the quiet cousins in the corner, while tragedies and successes would be the shouting uncles on stage. All family members are significant, including these cousins. Disputes drive tension stories. This might be interpersonal, a clash of personalities story, but the best tension stories include your values or behavior being questioned. Australia Post senior product manager Jonathan Snelling experienced tension. Jonathan fought for an hour to fix a flat tire on a New Zealand family road vacation. Jonathan often turned down help. His 8-year-old son asked him why he had ignored the well-meaning passers-by in the automobile. Jonathan realized his pride prevented him from accepting aid. His 8-year-old son taught him humility. Jonathan's bravery in telling his employees this tale shows his self-awareness and respect for others. Transition stories differ. These show boldness, flexibility, and resilience during major life transitions. Transition tales should focus on major life changes rather than routine activities. Transition stories shouldn't read like autobiographies. Focus on your transitional emotions like anxiousness or exhilaration. Australian HR manager Rose McCarthy has a real-world transition story. Despite having no medical receptionist experience, Rose applied for a job in Ireland with her husband. Her immigration story was brought up during her job interview, so she used it to demonstrate her perseverance and willpower. If she could relocate and change her life for her family, she could train for a new career and succeed. Rose was called 2 weeks later. Hired. Key idea number 5, your memory has countless stories. Finding your own story is hard, especially if you don't know where to look. Embracing the everyday is a great story searching tip. You found a story treasure. Why? Most days aren't marathon finishing, promotion earning days, so don't neglect the simpler moments. Our most honest stories come from these untapped inspirations. Consider thought leaders business school instructor Peter Cook. Peter ran to the restroom to balance out 2mm sideburn disparities for much of his life. Peter realized he had never seen somebody with uneven sideburns. He realized no one had noticed his uneven sideburns, so he stopped worrying. Peter used the story to make a fantastic point. Little issues frequently detract from bigger ambitions. He understood that changing perspectives can help us all. Embracing daily occurrences doesn't always provide wonderful stories. 2 methods boost narrative searching. Brainstorm a table for work-related stories. Your table should have 5 rows and space for about your job count. Write job in your table's upper left box. Fill the 4 empty boxes in the far left column with victory, tragedy, tension, and transition stories. Start listing your jobs in the jobs row from left to right to cover the table. Sit and analyze each job afterward. Each job should have 4 tail types. Write down a story you remember under the job and story type. Start your table with 5 columns instead of rows to find non-work related articles. Label each column with experience, victory, conflict, tragedy, and transition. Start listing relevant memories in the experience column. Link that memory to a story type. Put a tick beside that event in the correct narrative type column. You found a story treasure. Key idea number 6, Aristotle's 3-step storytelling approach works well. We usually like new. Story structure is a different matter. Schools teach Aristotle's 3-step paradigm of beginning, middle, and end. Start well. This should engage listeners, provide context, and be brief. Beginners often argue over irrelevant details. To attract a listener, start with significant information and instantly establish time and place. This sets the scene and transports your audience. The center of a story holds most of the detail. Thus, introducing unnecessary information can trap you. Ask yourself if each jigsaw piece is necessary to understand the plot. Avoid overwhelming the audience with information and stats, which blocks emotional connections. Naming your protagonists humanizes them, fostering trust and empathy. Your story's finale is crucial, so make it strong. Bridge, link, and pause make a great ending. A story needs a powerful, meaningful message. The bridge, a single line that resets the audience's attention, does this. I'm sharing this with you because. Or this reminded me of what we're attempting to do here work best. Link after audience reboot. The speaker told the anecdote for this reason. The link depends on what the speaker wants her audience to take away from the story, but it's good to close with something encouraging like think what we could achieve if. After the story, the labor continues. For effect, pause after a link. It helps listeners process what they heard and boosts your link's impact. Key idea number 7. Powerful stories are short, well practiced, vulnerable, and use humor wisely. Now that you can search, categorize, and organize tales like a master, you need decent material. 4 basic rules will make your story authentic and powerful. Keep stories brief. Verbosity kills mood, as we saw in the last blink. Business stories should last 1 to 2 minutes. Accept vulnerability. Vulnerability prevents self-importance and helps people connect with the speaker, especially in triumph stories. Vulnerability takes guts, but it's powerful and fulfilling. The Power of Vulnerability, Brené Brown's TEDx lecture, is one of the top 10 most viewed TED speeches ever. Vulnerability works well in storytelling, but what about humor? Like a chainsaw, it can be dangerous if misused. Humor gives stories personality. It's a useful narrative tool when utilized wisely, such to show humility in triumph stories. However, poor execution can alienate the audience. Thus, political humor generally divides audiences, so avoid racism and misogyny. What's humor's secret weapon? Practice. Practice binds a captivating story. Have you seen a charismatic speaker hold an audience spellbound? You probably thought they're a natural. False. Hard work and practice created their charming flair. Knowing your tale inside and out can give you the confidence of such speakers and help you refine its rhythm, find inconsistencies, and add or eliminate information. Practice writing stories as you would say them. Reciting will reveal any awkward phrases. After that, rewording, revising, and repeating until it's perfect. Key idea number 8, stories fit many business situations. Share your stunning, intriguing stories. But when and where? Business is full with stories, yet each case is different. Introduce your story early on. If you have a short time frame, this engages and establishes rapport rapidly. Start a presentation with a narrative. These opening moments determine whether people will listen or swipe through their social media feeds on their cell phones. Try a narrative instead of bar graphs and data. Early stories help sales too. Anyone in the sector knows how important it is to build trust with potential customers and personalize every circumstance. Stories are a quick and authentic way to start the conversation on a positive note. Storytelling is the Swiss Army knife of commercial communications. Company values demonstrate this. If values aren't respected or used to make company-wide choices, what are they? They're often overlooked on a mouse pad or coffee cup. But values should underpin any business. Use the grapevine strength. The grapevine is a secret network of employee stories. By purposefully spreading positive stories, you can influence the grapevine. Personal brand stories are also great. This includes your actions, values, and communication. In your absence, employee stories can shape your personal brand. Your tales influence these. Controlling your tales controls your brand. Key idea number 9, stories must adapt to every situation. Imagine looking out an airplane window. The plane's wing is swaying in intense turbulence. How come? What makes it weak? If wings were rigid, they would break. Storytelling requires flexibility and pivoting. Having a range of stories is more important than adjusting specifics to match new scenarios. Complacency after perfecting 1 or 2 stories is a common mistake. This is problematic since repeating the same story at critical business moments is tiring and makes you sound like a broken record. Worse, many will think here we go again. Always hunt for new articles to avoid this. The author had one while getting her hair trimmed. She accidentally double booked her appointments and had to leave early. Her stylist used 2 hairdryers to help. She instantly realized she had found the perfect customer service tale. Pivoting requires considering medium and context. Writing works as well as speaking for storytelling. For those who don't like public speaking, a newsletter or blog helps you demonstrate your skills. Blog writing should avoid repetition and be slightly more formal than oral communication. Consider your story's context. Hoodie CEO Paul Quickenden used a narrative of his children being caught in a riptide to motivate organizational change. Paul saved the day, but he used the anecdote to show how rapidly things may change. It's great for keeping employees alert, but not for building product trust. In a world of lists, data, and pie charts, storytelling is becoming more crucial. Using tragedy, triumph, conflict, and transition, you may connect with audiences, engage colleagues, encourage your team, sell your product, and express your personal or company beliefs. To view more content like this, subscribe. Don't forget to like and turn on notifications. The channel really benefits from it. I appreciate you being here.